Hey you, it's Jess here and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do my January reading journal setup, but first we're going to do a little bit of back work on December. It won't be completed, but I had these clips still lying around and thought you guys might like to see that. When I did my December setup, I wasn't able to finish the second page because I was waiting for the sticker sheet of the Christmas reading challenge from Scribble Prints Co. They are linked down below, and I also have a referral link if you haven't ordered from her before. You get some percentage off and I get some reward points. But yeah, so I wanted to show you how I was going to complete this page with the sticker sheet. I am going to bring some Maragona Solis stickers that I was using for this setup back in. And then I'll do a little filling out of my calendar, but also I have to set up my 2-page Wind and Truth page because obviously that was the big book of this year. And yeah, so I needed to do I was going to do a double page setup for that. I was going to do like notes and things across the whole book. Now I'm wondering if I'm just going to do quotes there. Yes, I still haven't filled it out. I finished the book in December. I actually was able to read all of these books on my TBR for the reading challenge, so that was great. But I did have quite a book hangover from Wind and Truth, so I haven't quite got my thoughts together for what I want to do on my planner in those spreads that you're going to see. But I had a really cool idea of how to hand draw the spread, so I hope you guys will enjoy that in a couple of minutes. But I guess I should talk about the books that I read, and then when we get to January, or once I've finished talking about these books, I'll talk about my January TBR, which is also based on a Scribble Prints Co challenge. It's her winter reading challenge. So yeah, it's been fun to use these reading challenges for a bit, just to set my TBR. Because I actually find having a TBR very useful. So I don't have to just scroll through my books and think about what I want to read. I can I've already picked them out kind of thing. So first we have here, I'm just going to go through the ones I have. For Snowy Setting we have Rabbitback Literature Society, which is written by Pasi, Ilmari, Jääskeläinen, and that is a Finnish author, and the book is translated to English from Finnish, so it's a bit odd. It is a magical realism story set in a fictional town in Finland. I'm not sure what time it's set in. It does mention a timeline, but I'm not sure when the actual timeline is. But the first couple of pages were like, oh, what is happening here? Because this male author was like, there's this weird thing about the character was talking about her body parts, like she was. What I mean is in the chest area, starting with the word N, the letter N. She was complimented on those or something. I don't know. It was a very odd. And I saw some reviews saying that they DNF'd right there on the first page. But honestly, you gotta keep going with it because it was a really cool, interesting little magical realism book that had a lot of Twin Peaks vibes. And I don't know, just a very odd, Finnish world. It's very, very Finnish in my opinion, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool little mystery, but also just this sort of slice of life of this weird little town where they are really into authors and literature, and they are obsessed with sprites and goblins and things. It's a cool little book. I enjoyed reading it. As something a little different from my norm, let me quickly interject and point out that I'm doing my Wind and Truth spread here, and I thought it'd be cool to have the storms on the side, and then I decided to do 2 of the swords because the swords are a big thing in the books. So of course I had to do Nightblood on one side, and the other I decided to do Oathbringer, just because that was the most named one I could think of doing, and I didn't really want to do the Spear of Kaladin because I felt like it'd be a little unbalanced with Nightblood. So I did Oathbringer, and I think it turned out really well. And if you don't, we'll talk about Wind of Truth in a minute. But yeah, I gave the Rabbitback Literature Society 4 stars. I also read for the like, I think it was a holiday short story. I read Cruel Winter with You by Hazelwood, which was only $1. It's like one of those Amazon original short stories. So I just spent $1 on it for the Kindle version. I've never read any romance, like proper romance books that everyone's into at the moment. Never read Hazelwood, and I can't say I was into it. At first I was seeing good reviews when I bought it, and now all my friends on Goodreads have read it and they didn't like it mostly. So I don't know, I guess I chose a bad one, but she seems like the popular author from the group. But how do I even go about it, talking about this book? It's just a romance. I don't know. Romance has really got nothing on for me. I actually thought the romance in Wind and Truth was better, which is saying a lot because Brandon Sanderson is not that good at romance. Like, he himself is nervous about writing romance. But I was like giggling and kicking my feet during the romance in Wind and Truth, and I was just like, ew, with the Hazelwood book. I gave it 2 stars. What really weirded me out was that she knew him as a baby, but she had this memory of holding him when she was 2, and I'm like, who has a memory from them when they're 2? Some people, but come on. And like, they want to be together even though she's known him his whole life, like basically siblings, and I thought that was so gross. Especially because in my life experience, I had 2 boys in my life that weren't related to me, but I grew up with, like from babies to children and teens, and they disgusted me. So I knew it. That was not for me. And a lot of it was kind of annoying and didn't make sense. I don't know. Sorry, I'm moving on. I'm not a romance reader. I'm not really into the contemporary settings either, so I don't know. It also felt a lot like my inner dialogue of daydreaming, where I just talk to people as a very ADHD thing, like it's endless, and I don't like to hear that, and I didn't want to read it. Moving on. That was for the holiday short story. Then for the book about Christmas, I think was the other one, was the challenge prompt. I read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and this was the Tolkien translation. This is like a medieval poem, and I thought it was perfect because if you didn't know, the Green Knight it's set at Christmas and it's about a Christmas game. And then I read the audiobook, which was voiced by Terry Jones, which is my favorite Monty Python member. I love Terry Jones. And yeah, I really loved hearing his voice reading the medieval poem. I thought a lot of people in the reviews were complaining about Tolkien's translation. They liked a more modern translation, but I appreciated the more, I feel like Tolkien was a lot more true to the text in its medieval form because it was written in Middle English. And I did actually do a course in uni on Middle English, so we did Chaucer. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I really liked the movie with Dev Patel. It's a lot more different than the book, but I think the movie adds a lot of that sort of medieval mysticism and fantasy that they like. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I gave it 3 stars. It was just a nice little thing to read. Then for a book cover that's red or green, I chose one that was red, and that was The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. And this, I thought the cover with the huge red text meant it was a red book. But that was on my Kindle. My partner had already read it, so I thought I would read it. And it is sort of like a retelling of a H.P. Lovecraft horror book, but retold by a black male author. And the main character is a black man in the 1920s, and you have the cosmic horror, Cthulhu fun, and sort of this mystery and weirdness. But then it's sort of, because he's brought this new perspective of being black. And if you don't know the history, H.P. Lovecraft was incredibly racist. I even to the point where I think his racist friends thought he was too racist. But that's neither here nor there. I think he started to change later in life, but his books are rooted in that, and I believe a lot of Black creators have sort of been taking and recreating his work from a different context and lens. So that's what really this did. I can't remember what the story from H.P. Lovecraft is called, but it is based off a specific book of his. And it'd be interesting to read his just to compare. But I thought this one was really good. I gave it 4 stars, and it's really about a main character who is Black Tom, and it really juxtapositions, or it really contrasts and really highlights this difference between this cosmic horror and the real lived horror experience of being Black in America. Even in the 1920s, even today, honestly. But like the most scary and horrifying parts is him just traversing white areas of New York. And it's very much an idea of like, they see me as a monster, so why not become a monster, you know? Anyway, very, very interesting. It was a very good perspective to be able to read, especially in terms of horror and correcting past horror authors. So I enjoyed that one as well. And then obviously the final book I read for December was Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. I did this for published in December as the reading challenge prompt. And I gave it 5 stars. I feel like some people are on I feel like it's just subjective all over. Some people didn't like it. Some people liked it but didn't love it. But I loved it. It's the 5th book in a series, and it ends the current story arc, so I can't tell you too much. But I do recommend the Stormlight Archive. I think it's a really good work. And my favorite thing is that it really gets into characters and mental health. And also, it balances that with the epic fantasy story. And I really enjoyed Wind and Truth, and I enjoyed where it ended. So this is not the end of the series. There's still supposed to be another 5 books. So we're kind of in a... I wouldn't say this is a cliffhanger, not to me. I feel like we've sort of wrapped up and concluded and gotten in a good place with our characters. And stuff has happened that is going to completely affect the next 5 books. And I know there's going to be a short time jump, I think 10 to 20 years. So that will be really interesting to get back to our characters and see what was happening, what happened in the meantime, how they're going to deal with this. Everything kind of changes right at the end, and for good, and not a horrible cliffhanger where you're like, well, that's it. If he never writes any more of it, I don't think it's a bad place to end it either. Like, obviously you want to be like, well, I want to know how this stuff concludes, but I feel like we're in a good spot. That's all. So I don't know, it's hard you can't talk about a 5th book in a series on these things without doing spoilers, so yeah, but I really enjoyed it, and I was kind of glad that I read it. It does bring in some other books, so obviously Mistborn, at least Mistborn Era 1, a little bit of Mistborn Era 2, and then Warbreaker is also kind of referenced. So I would say reading those before Stormlight Archive helps a lot. But otherwise, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I had a huge book hangover at the end. Although surprisingly, I didn't cry too much or anything. There were places where I teared up. And then, especially the end, but then he kept on moving. I guess it was the only thing I didn't love, is that the emotional stuff at the end didn't quite hit as hard because he kept momentum. He kept going with the story and kind of went past it. So I wasn't able to cry about certain things, but I wasn't mad or upset. And then there's also a romance in this, which is so adorable. I loved it. Yeah, I was kicking, my feet twirling, my fingers, and I was like, okay, this is how romance should be. Because I feel like I never even got that much in his other books. I don't know. It was this romance, I was like, tee, I love it. They're so cute. And as a little spoiler, it is a gay romance. There was a lot of actual 1-star DNFs because they were mad that there was a gay romance in this. Which is so funny because there are other gay and trans characters, at least in the background, in the rest of Stormlight. So, like, if you're wondering where trans characters are in this, there is, I think it's the king of the Reshi Isles used to be not a queen, but now they're a king. So, and that's valid and cool. And I really like that. That's especially explored, I think, in Dawn Shard, one of the novellas. But yeah, the main romance in this book was gay, and I loved it. It was adorable. And then one of the other characters is like cheering them on. I'm like, yes, I'm just like you. But that's all I'll say about that. And then, although I think my favorite romance in the books is still actually, it's actually Dalinar and Navani. Because, yeah, she's so pushy on him. But anyway, I like my old people romance. But that's really those books. It's hard to... Also, the thing is, this book is 1,300 pages. So it's a lot to think about and process and remember. There's this really cool fighting scene right in the middle, I think. And I was just like... I was reading in bed at night in the dark while my partner was asleep next to me, and I was trying not to like flail and scream because I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. And then there's this part where so my partner and I were both reading at the same time, and there was a part where they got ahead of me, and they were in bed reading, and then they just suddenly threw the Kindle across the bed, and they're like, wait till you get to this part. They threw their Kindle, and I got to, I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it was a really good reading experience, and I'm happy to wait for the next Stormlights. But yeah, I don't know, like I'm pretty sure Brandon Sanderson's writing Ghostblood's next, which is Mistborn Era 3. But I'm honestly not that fussed. I kind of just want more Stormlight, to be honest, but we will see how it all goes. But yeah, so 5-star book, that's always nice to have in the month. So we're almost finished, and we're going to start on January in a second. I'm just putting in these lines because I thought it would make the page look a bit more full, and that's what I really like in my reading journal. But that is how my Wind and Truth spread looks. It's going to be filled with quotes, I think. But yeah. And now we get started on January in the new section of my planner, and I'm going to keep this a lot more simple than I've done previously. At the moment, this is I added this series tracker page because I have one at the beginning from 2024, but I need space to add more series, and I decided to match it to the anticipated reads because I used Marigona Suli's stickers there and I didn't elsewhere in my setup, so I added an extra page of those stickers and that look. And I am going to use the Scribble Prints Co January art kit for the her reading journal kit, as well as her winter reading challenge. Now I've decided to cheat and December was winter too, so I decided I'm not going to do winter in the title. I'm just going to count Cruel Winter with You as that because I wanted to use books that I already owned for this challenge, and I didn't have any other books with winter in the title. So I'm just going to mark that off as being read. And you'll see here the difference between the first clips and now is that I have changed. I did this art shop's advent calendar through December, and one of the days was this really cool it's one of those, it's a kneadable eraser, so it's like, it feels like blue tack, but yeah, you can erase stuff and it doesn't leave any of those bits and pieces like normal erasers do. So yeah, I've been really enjoying using that now. I still have this automatic urge to wipe the paper afterwards, which you'll see when I'm erasing, but there are no actual bits and pieces from the eraser, so a kneadable eraser I definitely recommend. It's been really cool. Especially not to have those bits and pieces all over the desk. But yeah, so using those stickers, I'm just going to make a little base, and I'm just going to be, for now, sticking to these 2 pages. I'm not sure if I'm going to do more. I was like, I'm not sure if I wanted to do any written reviews this year. I also am using like less than half a planner for this year, and I don't really want to overflow into another journal. I said planner, I meant journal. I kind of want to keep 2025 all in this one journal, so I don't know if I'm going to do all the reviews. So for the moment, this January setup is just these 2 pages. One side is the reading challenge, and the other side are my books, my January TBR, and the star rating stickers underneath them. Everything you'll see here, so all the stickers are from Scribble Prints Co that I end up using, and then I'm also using a bunch of Tombos to make patterns and just fill things out. And then I printed off the book covers on sticker paper. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to add a review page or not, or just keep things minimal for a while, just so I know I won't completely fill this journal without being able to finish. And I was actually considering just counting through the pages to see what I would have left if I stuck to that method, or if I gave myself 4 pages a month kind of thing. But we will see. Because sometimes I like to add other things like a TV show. I need to add in The Wheel of Time because they have a new season coming out this year. So yeah, but for now this is just the 2 pages, and I thought it'd be fun to make it look like my big box was a piece of paper, a spiral notebook paper that's been torn off with the folded edges, and then I just gave myself a cute little gingham background with the tombos. So let me talk about the books that I'm going to do for my January TBR. One of the prompts is a graphic novel, and so I chose The Adventure Zone Volume 1, Here There Be Gerblins and the main author is Clint McElroy, but it's a McElroy book based on the podcast of their D&D. And I actually got this as a birthday gift from my friend Andrea, who runs Scribble Prints Co, and I've been wanting to read her the graphic novels that she sent me. She sent me a few of them, so... Oh wait, now I've completely confused myself. I actually meant I did use that for December. Oh my gosh. I read that in December because, oh my god, what was the prompt for that one in December? I wrote a list here and I completely messed it up. But anyway, I read that and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I already know of the McElroys. I didn't know they had graphic novels. So it was extra funny, like, because I could hear their voices in my head when I was reading it. But yes, I just realized that's not my TBR. I read it in December. Gosh. Apologies, you guys. But I also read The Adventure Zone, Here There Be Gerblins. All the books will be listed down below, by the way, so if you couldn't understand the title as I'm talking, it'll be written down below. But this one does have a graphic novel. Oh, the December prompt was a gifted book, and of course, Andrea gifted that to me, so... The graphic novel that is on my TBR for January, and I've already read it this month, as I'm doing this voiceover, is The Princess and the Grilled Cheese by Deya Muniz, and this was also gifted to me by Andrea, and it was just a really cute young adult, little kind of a young adult romance about a princess and a countess, and the countess, her father dies, and he doesn't have a male heir, so she would lose all of the family fortune. So they decide to do this whole thing of she would pretend to be a boy and become the count to protect their assets. And then as the count, Camembert is her name. It's the grilled cheese, so everyone's named after cheese. The Camembert meets the princess. So, and then obviously a romance blooms, and it was a very cute little book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then for Cozy Mystery or Fantasy, I chose A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. It is on Cozy Fantasy list, although it's a bit more sci-fi, but also still fantasy. Fantasy and sci-fi overlap, I feel like. And this is a different world. It's not Earth, it's a different planet with human beings. And they live in this world where basically 200 years before their planet was being destroyed by their technology, they built all these factories that were run entirely by robots, and then one day the robots became sentient and they left. So humanity had to deal with that and they had to save their planet. So now they live on a very small amount of space and they live very ecologically. So it's a solar punk kind of feel. And our main character, they are a monk for their religion, and they get they get tired of what they're doing as a job, so they could change to a completely different job and go on an adventure in the world. So that's Seinfeld. I gave that 5 stars. I already read it and I loved it so much. I also have a book a holiday, a winter story. A winter story, I chose The Sword of Kaigen by Wang, which is like a Japanese style military fantasy. So they're kind of Japanese, but it's a fantasy world. And it's set up on the top of a mountain in the wintertime. And yeah, it's interesting so far. I haven't quite figured out what exactly is happening in the plot, but I'm enjoying the writing so far. And the sort of setting and our characters. But otherwise, I feel like not much has happened yet. And I've got 16 hours left of the audiobook. But it is on 1.2 speed. Then we have a blue or white cover. I decided to do Robert Jordan, The Shadow Rising, because I was like, oh, my next Wheel of Time book is blue in one of its versions of its covers. So I thought that'd be perfect. So that's my second audiobook for this month, when I finally finish sort of Kaigen. And it's a Wheel of Time. So and it's I think it's the 4th book. And anyway, the new TV show season is based off this book, so I want to read it before the TV show comes out. And finally, a book you can read in one day, and that is The 6 Deaths of the Saint by Alix Harrow, which is a 30-page short story. I gave it 5 stars, already read it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Highly recommend. You know, it's one of those Amazon original short stories, so like it's $1 for the Kindle. I highly recommend. It's a 30-page book, will take you a day. Really cool fantasy. I'm kind of sad because it looks like none of her other books are like this one at all. I know a lot of people have read her recent book, Starling House, but it doesn't seem like it's the same at all. So I don't know. I really love this concept. I could have read it for like 800 pages, but it's really good for 30 pages. So highly recommend that. Gave it 5 stars. But that is where I'm going to leave you. I haven't finished. Oh, I've added one book since I've done this spread, which is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which is also written by Becky Chambers. Because I didn't have anything else. I only had audiobooks left on this TBR. So I'm currently reading that and really enjoying it. Because I already had it and I was like, well, I read Becky Chambers already this month. I might as well continue. And I'm enjoying that one as well. It is a sci-fi series. And it's almost slice of life. Like you're on a spaceship crew and you're going on a journey. Okay, so that is the finished spread. I will color them in when I finish the books like this. And otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this reading journal setup. I'll try to be longer next time, but I hope you enjoyed anyway. Let me know what your thoughts on the spread or the books. Have you read any of them? Do you want to read any of them? Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day and I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, later. Bye.